Welcome to Mystery Murdery Thingy.
Are you ready?
Oh my god. Are you fucking ready?
Sorry.
Gotta get one or two fucks in the beginning and a burp. This is raw, y'all. This is raw. What is this, like, number 5 or something?
I just had some cornflakes.
Yep.
Some Frosted Flakes.
Milk makes you a little burpy, I think. Makes one a little burpy.
Why didn't you bring me chocolate today?
I
was really hoping you'd bring me some Kit Kat.
I neither had the time nor the extra funds to get you some chocolate today, but soon, my dear, soon. Yes, you'll have everything you want very soon.
So, happy Wednesday.
Yeah, happy fucking Wednesday.
Wednesday.
We love Wednesdays.
Wednesday's aight.
Because that's the day that the pod comes out. And I get to see how many people listened. Ooh.
I don't like to know, don't know.
I look at it obsessively. Chloe never has looked at it.
I don't want to look at it.
And does not want to know anything about it, but I like to see where y'all are from, you know? We're getting a lot of listens from, like, fucking Madison. And, you know, we're getting a lot of listens from, like, still getting that listener in Kampala. I fucking love that.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out. We, you know, like Tanzania.
Give us $1.
We got one from India, from Egypt recently. All these people should be giving us $1. I do want to make that clear that we are on Patreon.com.
Yeah, I want to know about y'all. Hit us up.
And if you give us $1, then we know your name, and that's like pretty fucking cool.
We'll be friends.
We'll like become your friend for $1.
How fucked is that?
Because you listen to our podcast and we like really fucking appreciate it.
But yeah.
Because we talk about like mysteries and shit, and we know y'all like the mysteries.
The mysteries. It's
right.
A universal concept.
I know. Like, who doesn't love a great mystery?
Speaking of universal concepts, Mario and I have kind of been focusing on, like, where haven't we done like a story from? And part of what we're doing here, we want to have geographical, like, representation and, like, representations of, like, different victim groups and, like, different kinds of mysteries, different, like, we want to, like, be all-encompassing, right? Yes.
That's, like, who we are. We like to, like, think of, like, big or some shit. See? Right?
Yeah.
Because it's, like, fucking profound. No, but we had these, like, conversations. Like, we spent a year, like, thinking about this podcast, you know? And, like, what did we want to do exactly? And, like, why are we doing this? And, like, what's the, like, philosophy behind it?
Once I was, like, figuring out what it should be called, I was like, this is happening.
And then it was so funny how it came out, right? Like, you said it or I said it, and then we were just both like...
Well, first it was, murdery, deathy things or something stupid like that.
It was slightly different and worse.
Yeah.
And then it became slightly different and better, and then that's what we went with. Also, no one had ever used it before. That was a very important factor in what we were going to choose.
And it's big enough that you can suspect anything from it. Yeah.
Which means we can do anything we fucking want. And that's, like I said, the whole point, right? We can get, like... But that's what you were saying, right? Okay, so I guess I'll go first this time.
What? Yeah.
I was just going to go into it.
Yeah.
Because you were saying that because I'm doing a story that Chloe sent me, actually.
Yeah, I got it from Reddit. God bless Reddit.
Reddit, you know, it's got all the crazy things that you want.
I love Reddit.
I never go on there, but Chloe does. She loves it. So I'm doing a story today from Israel. And we've never done a story from Israel before, or, like, that side of, like, the Middle East, right? So, yeah. Oh, I wanted to do just a few corrections first. So Chernobyl actually happened in 1986, my birth year on April 26th, 1985. These are just from the last episode. Okay, so I was, like, talking about...
Wait, don't you mean 1986?
Yeah, not 1985, 1986. The year I was born.
Oh.
Yes. Sorry, I was, like, explaining it in a confusing way. Okay.
And what did we talk about last time? I forgot. I felt like it was so long ago.
Oh my god. Every day is like a fucking year in Trump's America, right?
Yeah.
That's what everyone says. It's such a cliche now.
I feel like I seriously do, though. What happened?
Last week, we talked about... Do we have to fucking look it up from last week?
Let's see.
Let's just look at A Missing Mary, Mary Doe and Annihilation in Austin.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, we're just talking about the the Serving Girl Annihilator again.
Yeah. That was fucked up.
Yeah, that's like one of the most like brutal stories, like true crime stories I think I've ever read about. Like, it's fucking insane.
What happened again? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my god, yeah, let me do the entire episode. So anyway, at the end of the episode, when I did my weird shit in the news, it was about the radioactive wolf, right? And I was saying this thing about how, it could walk 250 miles if it just walked 10 miles a day for 2 weeks. That makes no sense, because there's only 14 days in 2 weeks, and that's 140 miles. So obviously you need about a month to go that long if you're doing... I don't know how fast a fucking wolf walks, or a radioactive wolf, or whatever, but yeah, I'm like pretty bad at math. So anyway. Also, the MLB was founded in 1903, not 1906. So no one gives a shit about any of that, but I'm kind of anal about
validation. Like,
yeah, that's why I listen to the episodes multiple times, so I can pick out the small fucking shit that I get wrong and then correct it.
I like to listen to myself talk.
I've like so gotten used to listening to myself talk. I like kind of like it now. Also, I'm like fucking conceited. So no, I'm just kidding. I hope.
No.
I hope I'm kidding.
That's the point.
Right. Okay.
We started a podcast to present our own egos to the world.
That's true. That's true, because when we had conversations, we would be like, "Oh yeah, wouldn't like tons of other people love listening to what we're talking about right now?" You know?
Yeah, I genuinely thought so.
And we were right.
It's just because we're great conversationalists.
And we're a great couple.
We are.
This episode is uncut, also unedited, also very raw.
It's pretty loose.
So it's a little looser than you might be used to if you've listened to a lot of other ones.
Loosey-goosey.
So, but I'm going to actually start now. Okay, so my story for this week.
Loose like a slip knot.
Yes. Loose like something which has a lot of slack. Well, that was terrible. Part I would have cut out. So I am doing the murder of Tair Rada. Very sad story. Okay. Oh, I think, was that Mozzie?
Do you hear that?
Yeah, I think that was Mozzie.
Mozzie's the cat.
One of the two.
He's not my cat. He's my roommate's cat.
So Chloe's roommate has two cats, which I love, Bested and Mozzie. Mozzie is very neurotic and vocal.
Mozzie's a little shit. He walked into my room today.
He doesn't...
Excuse me, hello, can I help you?
He doesn't really like people, mostly.
Thinks he can do whatever the fuck he wants.
And Bestet kind of dominates him. She kind of like...
She's mean.
She's kind of mean.
That's what Zabe says.
Yeah, but I like her.
I know, Bestet's my favorite.
Yeah, we kind of hang out more, so...
Yeah, we chill more, you know?
Yeah, you know, because I'm a cat guy. Because, you know, it's awesome. Okay, let me actually tell the story. Okay.
Meow. Are you hear that?
Please, let me get to the fucking
I'm
story.
sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, great meowing.
I mean... Okay, stop.
That's my meow.
This is uncut, so...
Unedited and raw. So I am doing the murder of, as I said, Tair Rada.
Okay, serious now, serious.
And now I've got my serious face on.
This is fucked
Okay,
up.
so on December 6th, 2006, Tair Rada, who was a 13-year-old girl, went missing. So she had been seen outside, kind of skipping her last period of the day that day, at about 1:15 p.m.
Wow, is she skipping?
Just to hang out with her friends. Just like a normal kid does sometimes, right? Just like skips a class.
Yeah.
But she was still, like, hanging out, like, on the grounds, like, on this little grassy area.
Yeah.
That was, like, right outside the school building. And this was in Katzrin, Israel, which is in the Golan Heights. And there, was an extensive search by her family and, like, everyone in the community and the police when she just, like, didn't show up, at home that night. Her mom was, like, really distressed. Her dad, like, they eventually went to the school and, like, looked for her. No one could find her, like... They're looking out in the woods. There's, like, hundreds of people. And this is only a community of about 7,000. So it's, like, a small town.
Yeah.
And, like, all the police just, like, searching everywhere. So eventually some of the neighbors who were part of the search party decided to go back into the school and do, like, another, like, really thorough search of the high school. because I guess high school starts earlier than or there or something. And they eventually searched one of the girls' bathrooms in the school and found a locked bathroom stall. Yeah, not a good sign. What they found in the stall when they did eventually get it open was Tair's body.
What?
Her throat had been slit twice with a serrated blade.
What the fuck?
And there were also cuts on her face, her torso, and her hands, including some cuts that appeared to be post-mortem. So, a, brutal, bloody, horrible killing of a 13-year-old girl inside of her high school. Even the police chief, who had been on the job like 20 years at that point or something, said that he was horrified by this like really brutal killing. Like,
it's also bizarre.
Very bizarre. Like, when have you ever heard of like a high school student just getting randomly like single murdered within a high school?
Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah. So, obviously like the town, the high school students, like everyone is like super traumatized. I mean, we're like used to this now, right? Like after, Newtown or Parkland or, Columbine or like any of these school shootings.
But this is...
But, and again, you have to remember, this is in, just like those, right? In a small town. Like, there's not a lot of crime here.
2008?
This was in 2006. Yeah, December 6th, 2006. So yeah, the town is like really, traumatized. The high school students, don't want to be there. There's a lot of conspiracies and rumors flying about, just all over the place about like the high school students and just like everything else. And at first the police also think that it like might have been some kids, right? Like, what's that movie? Not Rachel's, but Heather's. That movie Heathers, like that sort of thing, where there's like a conspiracy.
Rachel's.
I don't know why I said Rachel's. I don't know. I'm not thinking of anyone in particular. If your name's Rachel, I'm sorry. But Heathers, where it's like, a conspiracy like of a like psychotic fucking high school kid just to like murder these other kids, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of the police's first thought, but that didn't really go anywhere.
Winona Ryder.
Right, Winona Ryder, fine performance by Winona Ryder. And a super babe. Way too good for fucking, what's his name? Who was that actor that played the other character? The main guy?
Remember.
But he's like a famous actor. I forget his name. Anyway. So, they didn't really investigate the high school student angle all that much either. Like, there were kind of like some things that came out later that were a little bit fishy that they didn't really get into. So, just keep that in mind. But they did round up some, kind of usual suspects type guys, right? A homeless guy, the school gardener, but they both had like really solid alibis for the date. And then they detained who the police saw as their main suspect. And this was a man named Roman Zadarov. And he was detained on December 11th. Now, Roman...
quick, isn't it?
Pretty quick, but you have to understand that when this happened, there was, such a media and, like, sensation and images of, like, Tair's mom, Ilana, like, saying on TV, like, what do you mean you don't know? Like, what do you mean you don't have any answers? This is my daughter. She's dead. Like, what are you doing? Just, like, berating the police, like, in front of the cameras. Which, obviously, like a grieving mother, how else would you expect her to,
Exactly.
That's what she should be doing, right? I'm not criticizing her. But it puts a lot of pressure on the police, who may or may not understandably, like, have a reason for not knowing anything, like, 2 days after the murder, right? Like, these things kind of take a little bit of time, usually. And by all indications, like, the police chief and everyone was, like, doing, like, hard work, right? So December 11th, like 5 days later or so, by this point, yeah, the case had been like kind of going on for a little while in the eyes of like the people of Katsrin, right? And they detained this guy, Roman Zadarov, who was a Ukrainian immigrant who had been doing some tiling work in the school. So he was kind of like a day laborer kind of guy, you know. And apparently his work permit was not legitimate. So he was apparently there on kind of forged documents. But he had only been in Israel like a pretty short time. I think like 2 or 3 years or something. But he had already married a woman there. So he had some roots in the community. And actually he had just had a baby like a week before the murder happened.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there's some different stuff, you know, going on with Zadarov. And apparently he was seen as kind of an outcast in the school because he was, you know, this like kind of foreigner who was here on like a work permit, didn't really know, you know, Hebrew very well. He was just kind of seen as kind of like an outcast, an outsider. You know, apparently nobody talked to him in like the teacher's lounge, you know. The students like kind of apparently like according to some people would like make fun of him and like you know, not treat him super well. And he was also pretty into knives. Like
Ooh.
He had knives like
That's creepy.
yeah, so his wife talked about how he has knives like hanging up in the house on like, you know, pieces of cloth just as like, I mean, it doesn't, I mean, yes, it is creepy and it is a bit weird because they're weapons, right? But you could also see it as having just like an appreciation of like a fine object, right? Which happens to be a knife.
That makes sense.
So
They can be pretty.
yeah, I mean, I don't want to like prejudge him too much just because he's like super into knives.
I think it's because the context we're talking about. I'm like automatically like, oh, that's gross.
Exactly,
Like,
exactly. But that's certainly how the police reacted, right?
Yeah.
When they hear about that, they're like, oh, okay. Oh, he's super into knives. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think we're on the right path here. Like, he wasn't liked in the school. Okay, I think things are kind of like coming into focus, right? And what was also very suggestive to the police was that Zadarov actually got rid of the pants that he was wearing on the day of the murder.
How do they know that?
Because he told them.
Oh.
They were like, show us the clothes you were wearing on the day of the murder. And he's like, well, I got rid of the pants. And he had this story that was like not super credible about why he did that. So that was always kind of like a little unresolved. It's like a little mystery within the mystery, as I like to say.
I feel like you say that a lot.
I say it like at least 18 times an episode. So get ready, get used to it. I'm going to keep doing it. No, I'll probably stop because it's getting annoying. But I just wanted to do it. A mystery within the mystery. Oh, that's so original. Oh, no one's ever said that before,
like
Mario.
Are you like a professor or something?
I can be very professory.
That sounds like what a professor would say.
That's true. I've people have told me that many times that I sound like a professor. I'm working on it. So the police, of course, brought Zadarov in for questioning. They interrogated him, you know, for hours, including using like different police kind of ploys. So I don't know if everyone's like aware, but the police are like allowed to lie to you, like in America and Israel and like pretty much every country in the world. And there's a sort of good reason for that, right? Because, you know, it gets people to confess, but I think one can also say that there's also a good reason not to do it, right? Or maybe many good reasons. Maybe like a lot more good reasons than the one, you know, sort of okay reason for not doing it. I'm just editorializing here. I feel like the police maybe should just be honest with people and like try to do honest police work to find out the truth. But, you know, they do sometimes
I feel like
work.
It's a tricky subject.
It's gray. I'm not going to say that it's not a gray area and that they don't have good reasons, I'm sure, for doing it that they could tell me about. But it just seems like a dangerous game, right? And I think we'll see why in this case, right? So police, you know, kind of told Zadarov that they did find blood on his belongings, on his tools, on his clothes he was wearing that day, and they had not found anything, right? So I want to be very clear at the very outset that there was no DNA evidence linking Zadarov to the crime.
Oh, that was the lie. Okay.
This is the story that they made up when they were interrogating him, okay? So they were telling him that there was blood, and they were saying, like, okay, what about that? Like, her blood was found in your clothes. Like, explain that to us, right?
Yeah.
And at first, he was just saying, like, oh, no, that's impossible. Like, no, it couldn't be. Like, that's impossible. Strongly, strongly denying it, like, for a while. But after the police give him a night to stew, right, in solitary or whatever, he tells the police that he probably picked up the blood that he saw in the men's room on the day of the murder, which he had just remembered, that there was blood in the men's room for some reason, and it was on the floor a little bit, and it was
menstruate.
Yeah, it was from menstruation, I'm sure. Maybe two guys were having a, friendly game of bloody knuckles in the bathroom, as you do, and, some of it spilled over, splashed onto the...
As you do.
As you do. I have not played Bloody Knuckles since I was, 7, but okay. So the story seemed implausible, right? That's what I'm getting at, right? So they kept questioning him about it and asked him, where does he think they found blood on his stuff? And he says, well, maybe it could be on the shoes, because there was some on the floor. Maybe it could be on his sleeve, because there was some on the handle, and maybe it could have been on his knife.
Did he have one while he was on the job?
Yeah, he had a utility knife when he was on the job.
Oh, okay.
Now
so a knife that makes sense, not like
a knife does make sense, but the particular kind of knife will become very important. What the police also did, another little ploy that they used, pretty extensive, big ploy actually, was using a cellmate informant. So this was a guy who pretended to be and was actually a former criminal, who actually gets paid apparently 12,000 shekels if he extracts a confession from, which I assume is a lot of money, because Israel's got a good economy. If he extracts a confession. So he's basically trying to do anything he can to get a confession from the person that he's in there with, right? Yeah.
That's a little...
It's a little shady. It's pretty fucking shady. So Zadarov does reveal to him that they, quote, pissed him off at the school, and also that Zadarov sometimes does bad things and doesn't remember them. So, yeah, that's a little red flag, yes.
Red flag.
So he, that was the siren to go with the red flag.
Yep.
So then there's also this instance where this happened, where he brutally beat his brother in Russia and didn't remember it afterwards. So apparently there is this time where that actually did happen. And then he said, maybe I did kill her. It's possible.
What?
Maybe I killed her and I just don't remember. They found this evidence, and of course the informant was telling him, oh no, the police can't make up evidence. No, this isn't the KGB. This is Israel. You can't make up evidence. They can't lie to you. When, of course, that's not at all true. That's just another lie, because he's working with the police. But, Zadarov thinks, okay, if you're in, think about it if you were in his head, right? And assuming he didn't actually do it. You're thinking, okay, well, they found DNA evidence. DNA evidence doesn't lie, right? We all know that. It's perfectly sound. So maybe, I don't know, I did have that one time with my brother where I blacked out and, beat him really bad. Maybe I did do it.
So you could be I don't know.
Maybe, and then you start, doubting yourself and, your own memory. And, oh, maybe, I don't know, maybe I lost an hour and I just,
There's a word for that.
Is there?
Gaslighting.
Oh, yeah, gaslighting. Exactly. So Zadarov does eventually decide to confess to the cellmate informant. The informant extracts his 12,000 shekels from Zadarov, in a sense, right, so to speak. He also, Zadarov reenacts the murder in the cell, slashing the informant's throat twice. Now, whether or not the police had told him about the twice or not is sort of in contention. So, read into that, but maybe take it with a bit of a grain of salt as well. So, he also eventually decides to confess to the actual police. Because he didn't know, of course, that the cell was being, taped. So he thought he had just told this other guy who was another criminal, right?
Yeah.
Until they revealed to him that oh no, yeah, he's actually working with us. And what Zadarov also did was a detailed reenactment at the scene of the crime itself, which was also taped. And he showed the police how he jumped out of the locked bathroom stall. So what he showed was that he killed her and then placed her down, like, on the side of the toilet, and then got up onto the toilet and kind of, like, hooked his feet on the bathroom stall door, and then kind of jumped out from there.
Okay.
So I know that was, like, a very sort of specific rundown. Just keep that in mind. We'll kind of go over why that's important later. So I'm sorry, I keep doing that this episode, but it's like we'll get into the investigation and stuff. So anyway, he does that detailed reenactment, and at that point, apparently, and this is also kind of in contention, the police had not told him that the door was locked, that Tair's body was found in. Okay.
But we don't know for sure.
But obviously, Zadarov's family and the actual family of the victim, like Tair's family, were not really convinced that Sadarov did it at that point. And Zadarov's lawyers, which are a husband and wife team named David and Galil Spiegel, were also, like, very, of course, not convinced.
Spiegel and Spiegel.
And they are, like, they seem, like, really awesome. Like, I did a lot of my research from a Netflix documentary called Shadow of Truth. And when they're talking, it's just, like, so, like, emphatic. And, like, they both have this way of speaking where it's, like, you can tell that they're trial lawyers. And they're, like, really good at it. It's, like, kind of entertaining. Plus, they're speaking in Hebrew, and so it's, like, fun to hear a different language. So, police claim, again, not with any truth to it, that they do actually have DNA evidence linking Sadarov to the crime. They like, claim that at the very beginning, but they never actually produced any DNA evidence. So again, that's the thing with the DNA evidence. It doesn't actually exist in this case, in the way that they say that it did at the beginning. So there was, no physical evidence linking Sadarov to the crime, even though there was an extensive search of his belongings, including his wedding ring, which just happened to be this kind of unique type of wedding ring, where it was two rings kind of fastened together.
Okay.
So what they did was they had a jeweler actually take them apart, because they're not, like, hermetically sealed, right?
Okay.
To see if there was any of Tair's DNA trapped in between the two rings.
Oh, wow. That's, like,
right,
very extensive.
Yeah, like I said, the police kind of did a good job in this case, even though, we'll see that it's, like, not totally solved. But, they didn't find anything. They didn't find any of Tair's DNA trapped between the two rings. And then Zadarov's lawyers also started to poke holes in the confession, claiming that it was a coerced confession or a forced confession.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Exactly. Forced confessions, coerced confessions, like, they are very much a thing in real life.
And it's always after they've been in there for a while and they just, like, want to go home.
Right. It follows a very specific pattern. Like, the police continue to ask you the same question over and over again. At first, you deny it very emphatically, and then eventually they ask you a ton of times, and they subtly feed you information that they want you to give back to them in order to give what they say is the truth. So anything that they don't want, any information that they don't want, they say is lies. And any information that they do want, they'll subtly hint it at you or tell it to you, and then say that that's the truth. And that if you tell the truth, things will go easier on you. Again, the police are allowed to lie to you.
You are telling... That's the whole... And that's why, like, plea bargaining is fucked up and stuff like... But anyway, that's a whole other...
And that more than 90% of cases in America end in plea bargains.
Yeah. Moving on.
Also, the bail system's fucked up. Anyway, this is not... We've gotten very...
a whole class on that.
We've gotten very off topic. Hey, criminology is super interesting. Okay, so getting back to the case. So obviously Zadarov's lawyers, they think that it was a coerced confession. They retract the confession. They also point to Zadarov's cell phone records, which show that he was actually on the phone at 1:23 p.m. on the day of the murder with his employer asking him to bring more glue for the tiling. And that's the exact time when the murder is supposed to have occurred. And we know that because there were kids who saw Tair walking up the stairs to the bathroom at right about that time. Why this is important is because that gives Zadarov an alibi. If he was outside on the phone with his employer, then he wasn't inside murdering Tair.
But kids said they saw him walking up those stairs to the bathroom.
Yeah, but that wasn't credible.
Okay.
What I said was that they saw her. They saw Tair walking up.
Oh, okay.
Right. There was a kid who did say that she saw a man walking up the stairs behind Tair, but the sketch that she gave of the man and the description she gave did not match Zadarov. So that did actually come into play, what you said, but it like didn't really support their case, the prosecution's case. So the Cellmate informant also did a lot of this work of like subtly feeding Zadarov the information that they then got him to regurgitate back to the police.
Classic.
And yes, so this is just classic forced confession behavior, right? There were also some problems with the reenactment. So at first, Zadarov was going to lead them up to the second floor. So the way the school is laid out, right? There's the ground floor, then there's a mezzanine, which is kind of in between, and then there's a second floor. And there's a bathroom on the mezzanine level, and then also on the second floor level. So Zadarov was going to walk them all the way up to the second floor when they told him to go to the crime scene, right? Because he knew it was in a bathroom. And then they kind of stopped him and were kind of fiddling with his cuffs as if there was something wrong. And then they sort of like led him to the right bathroom. And he sort of saw that there was like this paper on it that said like crime scene. So that was an issue, right? He seemed to have not exactly known where it happened. So let's get back to the specifics that I mentioned earlier as well. So, like I said, when he reenacted it, he said that he had dropped her down on the side of the toilet. She was not found on the side of the toilet. She was found sitting on the toilet. Secondly, the way in which he reenacted getting out of the stall, the locked stall. He went onto the toilet and then jumped up with his legs hooked around the bathroom stall door. Which is not how it actually happened. How we know that is because...
That's really hard to do.
Right. But how we know that that's not how the murderer got out was because there were 3 bloody prints found. One on the one on the toilet seat, and then one on the top of the toilet, and then one handprint on the side, like on the left. So what the murderer did was they put one foot on the toilet, the seat, or the seat cover. I don't know why I can't talk right now. And then they put their other foot up onto like the top of the toilet, and then they hoisted themselves over the side, went into the other stall, which was unlocked, and then walked out of that stall.
Okay.
Not the way that he did it.
I feel like the way he did it is much more complicated.
Right. And would also really have only been possible if you were like a full-grown man, right? Not like a high school person, right? Yeah. Because again, just thinking like, okay, if he didn't do it, who did, right? But we'll get into like the theories and stuff. Okay, and then third was the knife. So he claimed, or kind of they claimed that he had done it with his utility knife, which is a straight blade. What we know from various experts who looked at the wounds is that Tair's throat was slit with a serrated blade. Like, they said it was a classic, like, textbook example of a serrated blade wound. And you can actually see, very clearly where there's, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like, little indents from the serrated blade before the slit opens up, right, in her throat. And again, we're talking, like, technical, like, medical examination kind of stuff here. Obviously, this is a person... they were a victim. Like, we don't want to lose their humanity in this, right? Tair was like this bubbly, wonderful person that like everyone loved. She was like the fucking queen bee of her school, right? But I just want to make clear like what actually happened, because again, these things are pointing away from Zadarov. Let's just keep that in mind. So Zadarov's trial then began on July 2nd, 2007. So just about a year after the crime had occurred. And despite the lack of physical evidence linking Zadarov to the crime, and what everyone acknowledges is someone else's footprints at the scene, those bloody footprints we were just talking about, and all the fingerprints and hairs that also don't match Zadarov, and that Zadarov claimed, again, to have used a straight utility blade, even though it was a serrated blade that was actually used, Zadarov was convicted.
What?
By a panel of 3 judges. And his appeal was also denied by the Supreme Court of Israel 2-1.
Wow.
And then it was denied actually years later as well. So, obviously, Zadarov's family did not think that this was the case. Now, by the end of the trial, Tair's parents did think that he was guilty, but they've since kind of changed their minds on that again. But there was also, excuse me, there was also a large Facebook group that was set up supporting Zadarov, because a lot of people like did not think that the case like exactly added up, and these people, basically were doing a lot of rumor mongering, but also just kind of giving support to Zadarov and pointing out like how it was probably a forced confession and things like that. But it wasn't just like internet people who were like looking into this, right? There was also a private investigator named Chaim Sadovsky who also became convinced that the true killer is like still out there.
Wow.
And continue to investigate along with like some of the scientific investigators, for the state, and other just kind of like amateur sleuths, right? And Tair's mom also came to believe that it wasn't Zadarov, but that it was high school kids that were involved, which is kind of the other main theory of the case, right, from the very beginning. And what
that is like so sick.
I know.
As like a high schooler to do that. Oh my god.
To another high schooler.
I feel like that's even more
chilling.
Yeah.
You're right. It's more horror movie-ish.
Yeah.
But, sometimes life is like a horror movie. I mean, literally, that's part of like this whole true crime mystery thing, right? It's to like really explore like what's really out there. Like what are people actually capable of in real life? Because got to tell you, it's scarier and freakier than any movie you could ever watch. Like, I know you're afraid of horror movies, but like this stuff is actually scary because this actually happened. Like the Servant Girl Annihilator actually happened.
Jeez.
Yeah. So anyway, Ilana, Tair's mom, did give some names, particularly one name to Sadovsky, the private investigator, who started to look into these things, right? And started to find some holes in the testimony of some of the kids, including things about,
Wait, kids testified?
Oh yeah, there were a lot of kids who testified. They were like the main like source of, like eyewitness testimony.
How reliable is that?
Well, that's part of it, right? And they seem to have not been entirely reliable.
That's the question, really.
That's the question, exactly.
Because the kids can be the most truthful ones, but, they can also be...
Right, and they could hide stuff for a totally stupid reason.
Yeah.
Or they could be hiding things because they murdered their friend. Who knows? Who knows? Could be. It's always just out of reach down the buck on a beach.
What's that?
It's from West Side Story. Anyway, so what Chaim also learned was that the theater class that Tair had, which was just before she died, she was apparently like very withdrawn. She was like sitting on the side of the class, just like looking down, like not participating, which was very unusual for her. Like she was super into everything. She was super bubbly. She was like very into acting, into singing, into especially dancing. She was like a really good dancer. So this was like really weird, right? And her theater teacher went over to her and was like, hey, what's up? Like, are you okay? Like, what's going on? And Tair said that she was, quote, afraid of death.
So did she know?
That's the thing, right? And if she did, then does it link into some kind of like bigger rivalry or like kind of conspiracy or something going on at the school that we've just never learned about, because it kind of was kept within like those people who like were in the high school, right?
That would be even crazier.
What Chaim Sadovsky also learned was that there was an 18-year-old guy named Avi that had been harassing and threatening Tair because she didn't want to become his girlfriend, which is fucking sick. And the catch with that one is that the police couldn't really find any evidence for it. So it may have just been one of these kind of like high school kid rumors.
Yeah.
Like we were just talking about. Like they're not always that reliable. So that's an instance where like it may not actually have happened. And they may have also just been using it to cover something else up. Like we really don't know. Sadovsky also came to believe that there were multiple attackers who were of a similar age to Tair. One of the pieces of evidence he had for that was that there were actually 7 small wounds found on the back of Tair's head, which kind of always went unexplained. Like, the prosecution didn't even really, like, mention them. And that adults wouldn't have used a knife to kill her. They would have just overpowered her. She was, like, 4'10" and, like, 90 pounds. Like, she was a tiny girl. So, you know, it makes more sense if they used a knife that it would have been, like, someone kind of her own age. So he thinks, kind of his theory
That's a good point.
It is kind of a good point, right, when you think about it. So his kind of theory of the case was that other kids may have been jealous of Tair, who, like I said, was, like, you know, kind of the most popular girl in school, right? She was, like, the queen bee of the school. And her mother, Ilana, fixated on this one little girl who was kind of always in competition with Tair. They were, like, rivals, shit. Right? They were, like, enemies. And their families didn't like each other either. So their families were enemies. So, you know, Ilana thinks,
that's
well...
an even whole other level.
Exactly.
Because then somebody else could, you know, be responsible.
Yeah, exactly.
Within the
family. It might even, like, go even further, right, into, like, family dynamics or family rivalries and shit. So the other thing about this little girl was that she left town for a few days right after the murder happened and told the police that she didn't know of any kids who had left town after the murder, even though she full well knew that she did. So that was also weird, right? Like, why would you do that? And the Facebook group that we talked about earlier also fixates mostly on, like, Tair's classmates as the suspects. Now, they deny any wrongdoing, and the police have never even, like, accused them of anything. You know, any of them. But they do get, like, a lot of harassment online. Like, from the people on Facebook, mostly.
Oh, wow.
And then, so it's about 6 years after the murder happened, right? Zadarov's been in jail for several years. A mysterious man, who's only identified as A.H. in the press, to protect his identity, comes forward and says that actually he knows who did kill Tair. And it wasn't Roman Zadovsky, or Zadarov, rather. It was his girlfriend, A.K., who had actually confessed that she was the true murderer of Tair Rada, and showed him her blood-soaked clothes from the day of the murder.
So is this girl... Wait, is this a random girl?
No, she went to the school at the time.
Oh.
Yeah, and now this is 6 years later. They're still dating. They've been dating since high school. And apparently she, or at least according to A.H., she confessed to be Tair's true murderer. Like, that she couldn't take it anymore, she just had to get it off her chest, right? Kind of thing. And then A.H. contacts a lawyer, contacts Zadarov's attorneys, of course, and then contacts the police. And what he says is that she was, like, really into blood in, like, a very weird way, and also into being a she-wolf.
What?
Yeah, so apparently she's got a lot of weird kind of kinks, and this is according to her boyfriend again, and, like, weird shit going on with, like, blood and she-wolf.
I mean,
and,
no
like,
shame.
Demons and shit.
No shame.
Which is totally cool. I mean,
but you don't kill people, you know?
If that's what you're into, and you drink pig's blood, and, you know, you like, you know, doing cosplay in a wolf costume, like, that's awesome. Like, you're an interesting person, and I love you. As long as you're not hurting yourself or anyone else in any way. It's totally fine, right? But with AK, it seems to have gone further, including what A.H. says was her way of getting a little relaxation, right? She would do a little sort of guided imagery, you know, with herself, in which she would picture herself just, like, floating, just, you know, relaxed, in an enormous pool of blood.
What?
Yeah, just a lake full of blood, and I'm just laying there.
That was her, like, fantasy?
That was her happy place. You know, like Happy Gilmore, like, go to your happy place, Happy. That was her happy place. And A.H. further says... Is she, like, anonymous in, like, a blacked out shadow and, like, with a
covered voice and stuff.
Well, she's not in it, but he is, yes. His face is, like, covered up with the shadow, mostly, although you can see a little bit on the sides. And his voice is, like, not masked or anything. So, A.H., the masked man we were just talking about, also says in that Netflix documentary, Shadow of Truth, that apparently A.K.'s very weird, very sadistic grandpa actually took her to an active battlefield.
What?
Possibly naked, when she was a young girl. And she was super cold, so he put her, and it's not totally clear, but either in a wolf or maybe a human dead body to keep her warm. Yeah. Again, this is according to A.H., her boyfriend.
Pretty damaging.
Yeah. And this also kind of sets up, like, the psychological, framework for what we're talking about, right? Where she's into, like, this she-wolfism or into, like, disemboweling people and shit like that. So again, A.K. also went to the school where this happened at the time, and according to A.H., she meticulously planned the murder, including dressing up with a wig, bringing gloves to the school and a change of clothes, and a serrated knife. Yeah, which she was caught with. So we know that she did carry a knife, because she was actually arrested in 2006 for carrying an illegal hunting knife. Yeah, so that's pretty suggestive. So, again, this whole thing with, like, the grandpa and the blood, and, like, it's very fantastical, right? It's, like, a lot. So the makers of the Netflix doc did put A.H. to a polygraph test. Actually, I think, like, 3 of them, and he passed them, all of them. Now, polygraph tests are not perfect, but, it's something. So Sadar and his lawyers took this info, and they asked the police to start investigating A.K. So they bring A.K. in for questioning. She's very, kind of innocuous looking, and she denies everything that A.H. said about her, like, up and down. Like, oh, that's ridiculous. Like, what? I love blood? Like, what are you talking about? And she says that A.H. is really only doing this to get back at her for breaking up with him. And also that he abused her. Like, including sexually. So both A.H. and A.K. are put under house arrest. They get out after about 5 days, and then A.K. is actually arrested for attempting to stab a guy, and then going into a seizure and trying to bite a policeman.
A.K. is the girl?
A.K. is the girl.
Oh my...
Yeah, so that's something that happened between the time when she got out of house arrest, and then it was a separate crime that she was being arrested for, like, the next day or something. It all, like I said, also turned out that she had that arrest warrant for the illegal knife back in 2006. And a further interrogation with her found, or she kind of told them in that interrogation, that she did, in fact, like to kill people and wanted to take out their innards.
What?
Which is very hard work, according to her, and that she liked to crawl inside of them because then she can have, quote, a little peace of mind. Again, A.K.'s relaxation techniques for, the serial killer who's a little stressed out.
I don't know about that. Is that like some kind of class you can take at the Park District?
Right. No, that would be, like, I don't know, an advertisement in Serial Killer Monthly or something, if there were such a thing. Just some morbid humor for you guys, to break up the gore here.
Was she like a cannibal, too?
There's some of that, too, yes.
Ah!
Yeah. And this gets into the fact that, of course, there's this she-wolf demon that's possessing her, so how could it be her fault? It's the she-woman demon that's possessing her, Like, it makes her want to eat people. What can she do? So anyway... because of all of this ranting and raving and the trying to bite the policeman and so forth, the police do commit her to a psychiatric facility.
Yeah, she needs help. Instead
of charging her. And she was never charged with Tair Rada's murder. A.H. is also arrested for obstruction of justice and sexual assault. The police kind of strong-arm him, they want to, into retracting his statements about Tair's murder, including saying that they'll drop all the charges against him if he does do that. A.H. totally refuses. He does not retract his testimony, and his pleas are ignored by the courts. A.K. is forcibly committed in 2012, And there she actually, according to a friend of her roommates, confesses to Tair's murder. Now, unfortunately, the roommate and the woman who gave this information to a lawyer both committed suicide. Yeah. The roommate first, and then May Peleg, the friend of the roommate, both committed suicide after telling, and May did it
like
after
on the same day or something?
No, but pretty close to one another. And it's very mysterious as to why that happened, or if it's like just a coincidence, or like, what the hell's up with that? So basically, AK confesses, according to the roommate, to Tair's murder,
they also
and then
had something to do with it.
I don't know, maybe, I don't know. It's all very strange. And then 2 days, it was 2 days after telling the lawyer that that May Peleg, the friend of the roommate, committed suicide. And then AK was actually released from the psychiatric facility in 2015. Now, Sadar does remain in jail, although he continues to profess his innocence. Tair's mother, Ilana, wants the investigation reopened, but the police are not going to do that. So basically, we're left with a lot of mystery. Yeah.
That was a good one.
I was really glad you sent it to me.
How like deep it was.
I know, there's like so many different like angles and after going through all of it, like I really do think it was probably AK. I mean, that seems like the most plausible thing. But you know, again, it's a mystery. But here, let me do my sources.
Yes.
Yes, gotta do this.
Wikipedia?
Yes. No Wikipedia this time. I mean, I did some Wikipedia searching for some background info, but not for the main story. But I did get, like I said, a lot of my info from that Netflix documentary, Shadow of Truth. It's really good. It's by Yotam Gundelman, Ari Pines, and Micah Timur. And then a story by Yedidia Ben-Or in Arutz Sheva, and by Roy Yanofsky in Edet News, and Eli Ashkenazi in Haaretz. And those are all Israeli newspapers. So, yeah, that's my story for episode 30. Can't believe we made it to fucking episode 30.
Okay, so I'm doing something really, really different.
Yeah, I love different things. Oh, yes, let me get prepared. I am now blind. I cannot read.
Yeah, don't freaking read over my shoulder. I hate it. Okay, so mine is about UFOs and shit.
Ooh, UFOs. Nice. You are entering the Twilight Zone.
That was the Hunger Games.
I've never seen the Hunger Games.
It's good. I think the movies are good.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, I'm going to talk about Skinwalker Ranch.
Ooh, Skinwalker Ranch.
So, it's this place in Utah.
Ooh, Utah.
Yeah, Utah's pretty.
Utah, so creepy.
Ooh, Mormons.
Ooh, those Mormons. What are they going to do? I don't know.
Salt Lake City.
What are they going to do? They're going to work out again? Oh my god, it's so mysterious. Oh, are they going to give to charities? Oh, geez, it's crazy. Sorry. I love just how Mormons are, like, aggressively, like, good people. Like, you know, no offense if you're a Mormon, but the religion's kind of kooky. Like, it doesn't totally add up. Like a lot of religions. But I do have to, like, say, like, they make, like, a real effort to be, like, really good people. It's, like, part of their deal. So I do appreciate that. Anyway, getting back to your story.
We were Jews who met with Christ, but we were all American. Anyway,
right.
Okay. I could sing that whole freaking song. So
Jackson County, Missouri.
Yep.
Go on, sorry.
You mean the Garden of Eden?
That's what the Garden of Eden was, you guys. We didn't even know.
I believe
okay.
The Garden of Eden is in Jackson County, Missouri.
Okay. Skinwalker Ranch.
Okay,
Skinwalker Ranch.
Dude, this shit's... It's crazy. It's really crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know whether to believe it or not. I'm kind of weird about aliens. I think they're definitely there. There's something out there.
But that's the mystery, right?
Exactly. So, it's also known as Sherman Ranch. It is located 512 acres southeast of Ballard, Utah. So it's kind of in the middle of freaking nowhere. It's surrounded by mountains and cliffs, and it's basically like a basin. and it is home to the Ute Native tribe. And it's definitely one of the weirdest locations in the USA. Not only have there been, like, multiple UFO sightings, there are animal mutilations, there's reports of a portal to a different dimension, crop circles, poltergeist, you fucking name it, Skinwalker Ranch has it.
So this is, like, Weirdo Central.
Yes.
We need to go there.
You can't.
Damn.
So people think there was, like, some top secret paranormal experiments and shit going on. It's the most heavily researched paranormal place in the world. So we'll get to why that is. But it's, like, private property now, and, like, the people who are there don't want frickin' weirdos walking around the place.
That makes sense.
And apparently the activity has decreased in recent years. Which is interesting because it's been, like, this UFO sighting place for years, since, like, the 50s. It's been, like, people have been reporting all types of weird shit.
Interesting.
So let's, like, start with the history. It starts with the Navajo legend of the Skinwalker. So this immediately made me think of Supernatural and the shapeshifters. A Skinwalker is a person, and because it's from Native American legends, it's usually a Native American who can change form based on their need. So they can, like, shapeshift into different whatevers. So based on their need, meaning if they need to go a far distance and they want to fly, they can turn into a bird.
Did you ever read Animorphs?
No.
Oh my god, that's the fucking story of Animorphs. I love it.
The covers turned me off. They were weird.
I liked them.
So they're hard to catch because they have, like, inhuman bursts of speed, and they're only killed if they're injured in the neck region. Apparently they can also read minds to know what scares people, so they can instill fear and that way control their victims, and they're, like, creepy and lurkers and shit like that. So the legend started just as Europeans began to move west, forcing Native American tribes to leave their homes. Classic white people shit. But
oh no, God told us it's fine.
Yeah. He said so, it's fine.
Oh, you haven't heard of the Christian God? Oh, yeah, we'll tell you. It's fine.
You've been here for thousands of years? Oh, doesn't matter.
Oh, you have your own God? Oh, that's so cute. Oh, yeah, ours is better, though. So real. You can tell because we have guns.
Too real.
Our God's got guns, so y'all better step off.
During a Civil War attack on the Navajo, the land was cursed because y'all were fucking up the place. So,
I like how you actually, like, it's everyone except for Chloe. Like, Chloe was, like, the one person who had nothing to do with, like, America's colonial sins.
Nope. Some say a Skinwalker was created in the process, and it lives in a place called Shadow Canyon. And the Ute tribe, they avoid this area at all costs. They don't go there. They're for fear of angering the Skinwalker, the spirits, the weird energy that's over there. So
weird. You can tell the energy's weird because it says weird. That's how you know.
What says weird?
The energy. That was the energy talking. I didn't mention that.
I don't think you made that clear. Okay. So shaman healer Michael Romanov believes that there's also a portal to another dimension located in the heart of the basin. Quote, where the past meets the future. And there's been, like, reports of, like, hovering doors and shit like that, but
that sounds like
some of the stories are much more, like, out there, and some of them are, like, plausible.
Right.
There's, like, a whole range of, like, crazy shit.
So where the past meets the future sounds like it should be, like, the like byline for, like, the Lincoln Museum or something. Like,
oh yeah,
it sounds like some, like, history display.
It does.
Where the past meets the future.
Like it being, like, written in, like, a gold plaque or something.
Yeah, something like that.
So in August of 1978, there was a mass sighting of a UFO seen 10 miles from the ranch. So I mean mass sighting as in like a shit ton of people saw it. And this isn't like the only time that this has happened, where like a lot of people have seen this one thing. So
we could do a whole episode just about mass sightings.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
So I'm reading from the archives of the Deseret News, published Monday, September 4th in 1978. It is an article written by Andrea Granum, and I'm going to start with the first guy. So, quote, Dale Wood, 13, a student at Vernal Junior High School, was the first to see the large silver object near his grandmother's home about 7 miles northeast of Roosevelt about 10:30 p.m., August 11th. While walking to his grandmother's trailer home, he could hear the sound of a finely tuned purring engine, Dale said. He looked up to the horizon and was surprised to see a silver dome-shaped object. It was surrounded by an intense green light that was jagged like the flames of a fire. And then like the picture is like something that he drew. It's like what the top of it looked like. And then he drew like a side view. And then he like goes to his grandma, blah blah blah. And I also wanted to read about Mrs. Rasmussen, who also saw it, and she contacted Junior Hicks, a science teacher at Roosevelt's West Junior High School, who has gained some fame in the field of UFO investigation since 1968. He has personally investigated more than 400 sightings in the Uintah Basin. So, and we'll talk more about him later. This is where like a lot of the research and the escalation of these sightings started. So in 1994, Terry and Gwen Sherman and their children moved themselves and their cattle into the 480-acre ranch. They're like, oh my gosh, this place is so nice. How we got it for such a great price. I don't understand why nobody's here. Oh, blah, blah. Classic.
That's like the classic start to a horror movie.
Yes. Basically, they wanted to have a successful cattle ranch where they raised, like, prized cattle, like thousands of dollars and shit like that. And they just wanted to raise their children in a nice, peaceful place. But that didn't happen. Spoiler alert. So they're the ones that had, like, this experience. When they first started to fix up the ranch, they noticed weird things. Many, many weird things. Like the amount of padlocks inside and outside doors that they had to remove. And the first night, as they were standing on the porch with Terry's father, Ed, they saw a huge wolf, easily 200 plus pounds. And I got a lot of this information from a little mini YouTube documentary / podcast thing. And it said that the two men were like over 6 feet tall, and it was like easily like chest height. And it acted like a lost pet. And apparently began like brushing up against like the two men and like not purring, but like whining. And the kids were like, oh, let's keep it. Oh, it's so cute. Blah. But then the wolf turned its head and noticed the cattle. It went over to one of the cattle, bit it by the head and tried to pull it through its head through the fence. So the dad gets his guns out. He shoots it 3 times. No injuries, nothing. He released his hold on, then the injury, or the wolf released his hold on the calf, and shot a 4th time in the heart, still wasn't harmed. So the dad got out his fucking shotgun, and he shot the wolf twice, seemed to injure him a little bit, and it finally walked away. So that it was like this weird, like, invincible fucking wolf thing. They saw other shit, like they saw strange hovering orbs and like balls of light. And they also talked about how they were kind of like intelligent. Like they would chase these like cars. There were like lights that would like chase cars and like take a weird interest in humans. And like some other articles that I read about people who looked into it, there was a theory that said these were like the travelers, and this was like some sort of alien vehicle or some shit like that. So They also would hear voices directly above their heads. They saw faces in the windows that eventually turned into apparitions that would stand in front of their bed. Everybody was having nightmares. They couldn't sleep. Objects would disappear and reappear somewhere else. Like, there's a specific little story of Gwen, who's the wife. She's, like, unpacking groceries and putting things away, and she turns around and all the groceries are put back in the bag, like, just by themselves. Stuff like that, poltergeist type shit.
Mm-hmm.
There's an unexplained musky scent that begins to gain strength, and things got even weirder when they began finding their cattle severely mutilated. It was bizarre. There were genital mutilations, and there was one cattle that had an eye removed. Just the eye. There was like a big gaping hole, and it was like surgical. Yeah.
Weird.
Your face is very like, what the fuck?
Right yeah, now. That's my what the fuck face.
Yeah. Then these cattle began disappearing. He lost 20% of his cattle in 1 year, which is horrible. Horrible for business. These were prize cattle that were extremely expensive, and they seemed to disappear without a trace, leaving only footprints. Bright tropical birds were spotted in the trees. They would hang around there. The dogs acted very weird. They didn't leave their houses. They were very secluded and timid. 6 of their outdoor cats disappeared in one night. One of the dogs chased after this mysterious light, and they didn't fall. They waited, and they heard the dogs yelping in the distance, and when they went to go look for them, they couldn't find them at all. They gave up, and the next morning they found 3 scorched circles in the ground with gooey liquefied flesh in the center. That was all. So this is some supernatural Sam and Dean hunting shit.
Oh yeah.
That's like the only way I can explain it. So this...
Lucy, you got some explaining to do.
Oh my god.
You gonna drink some water?
Yes.
Water break. This is the water break song. When Chloe gets water, I sing this song.
I got the water. I'm all is well. So this affected the family's sleep. It affected their psychology, their social lives, and because their fucking cattle were mysteriously disappearing, they were going bankrupt. So they told their story, but there wasn't much people could do because people also didn't generally listen to them until 2 years later, in 1996, a billionaire named Robert Bigelow. Isn't that a billionaire name?
Yeah.
My name's Robert Bigelow. I have $1 billion. He bought the ranch from the Shermans for, asshole, only $200,000.
Jesus.
Yeah. And it's it's 480 acres.
For only $200,000?
Yeah, in 1996.
That's still pretty fucking insane.
Yeah. So the previous year, a research team had formed. It was called the National Institute for the Discovery of Science, aka NIDS. It was a group of psychologists, engineers, chemists, physicists, biologists. So it was Robert Bigelow's corporation. He moved those scientists in. They locked down the place. They brought in state-of-the-art equipment. They hired former military security guards to keep it protected. Sherman decided to stay on as ranch manager and take care of the cattle, which the researchers used as bait. So basically after it was bought by this dude, this team of scientists moved in, and they started some serious research of various fringe science, the paranormal, and lots of ufology.
Yeah, go ufologists.
Ufologists.
Woo! Love those ufologists.
These guys were fucking nuts, though.
Shout out to Henry Zabrowski.
Is he a ufologist?
Yeah. I believe he's a card-carrying ufologist.
Card-carrying? Wow.
I believe they will send you a card if you give them like $200 or something.
That's pretty good.
Or something like that.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the people here. Dr. Colm A. I want to say Keller, but it's like Kelleher. Kelleher. I think it was Kelleher. Dr.
No,
Colm
it'd just be Keller.
Kelleher, biochemist. He's got 15 years of research in cells and molecular and molecules and shit like that. He's one of the...
That's exactly how he would describe
science,
it. Right.
Science things.
He's a science guy.
He is one of the researchers. Him and other researchers inspected the cattle and found no outward signs of death because at this point they were too decomposed. Another main guy, George Knapp, who's a journalist, he joined the team and he becomes a pretty big staple in this investigation and getting the word out and telling like what the fuck is going on here. Actually, him and George Knapp and Kelleher, shut up.
I'm pretty sure it's Keller.
Kelleher.
I don't think it's Keller.
They wrote a book together.
Okay.
So, during this time, they went on exhibitions in pairs of two to just, like, go check shit out. One night, George Knapp, our journalist, saw a bright yellow orb of light. He was, like, with his team of light shoot out from behind a ridge. It moved as fast as a jet airplane. And what was weird, that it circled in a perfect 360 loop and then disappeared. And this happened a lot on the ranch with their documentations. Their photos were blurry. They never turned out right. Cameras would break. Technology would just stop working.
Isn't that like Supernatural too?
Yes.
Yeah. I think what we're learning today is that Supernatural is a documentary.
Oh, dude.
It's not a fictional series at all.
Not at all. So, the cattle. In January 1997, activity began to escalate. The cattle mutilations got worse, and they got way more bizarre. So after, like, this intense snowstorm, negative 30-degree type weather, 3 calves were found with odd wounds on their ears and their eyes. So 2 of them had like circles of skin cut out like around their eyes, and the other had his ears cut off as though with scissors.
Ooh.
And the vet who came in said that they had never seen anything like this before. This is crazy. And usually during snowstorms, predators stayed away. So what the fuck is going on at Skinwalker Ranch?
Lots of weird shit.
So, and then a month later, there was another mutilation, and this time it was in broad daylight. They found their dead calf, 85 pounds. He was missing internal organs, entirely drained of blood, and it was missing a leg. It's dismembered leg. It was like moved up towards the right of the body, and the mother of the calf definitely saw what happened. She was acting weird. She was very upset. She was standing in the corner with her head down. The dogs acted weird too, like they had witnessed something. One of the calf's ears was missing and cut neatly down to the skull, like surgical precision. It was the ear with the yellow ID tag too. And it was never found once they like looked all over the place. So the same night, the dog started barking again, and the family was alerted, but they couldn't see anything. There was no visible causation. They inspected the area, and they found an injured cow underneath a tree. And when they inspected the area, they looked up above, and they saw amber eyes glowing in the tree above. They thought it was a cat. So, of course, because they're, a ton of white guys, and they, like, take their guns out, start plop, plop, and start shooting it, but it disappears.
It was probably the Cheshire Cat.
You know what? It's Wonderland. Maybe that's it.
Maybe it's actually Wonderland
And
Ranch.
they saw the door one time.
Maybe it was actually, the Cheshire Cat. I don't know what I was going to say. Sorry, go on.
And they went searching for it, but they never found tracks. They never found evidence of anything being there. Mm-hmm. They found a weird footprint. Looked like a giant bird of prey. It had 2 sharp claw marks. It was 6 inches in diameter. And then they found another one 20 feet away. And from the depth of the print, they determined that it had to be a pretty freaking heavy animal.
So they found one here and then another one 20 feet away, but nothing in between?
Nope.
That's very strange.
Yes. More weird things.
This is a weird place.
It is a very, very weird place. And and of course there's a horror film based off of it.
Oh, cool. What is it called?
Guess.
Skinwalker Ranch?
Yes.
Okay, of course it is. Why would it be called anything else?
So, moving on. Later in that year, Sherman's bulls went missing. All 4 of them. And it's weird because bulls aren't like easily maneuvered. Like that shit takes planning. You get yourself a shepherd. So they can't just like disappear.
Mm-hmm.
They looked all over the place, but they couldn't find them. And on a whim, Terry Sherman checked in the cattle trailer, and they were tightly loaded in the cattle's trailer. What was weird was the trailer was still locked, and it had wire coiled around the clasp. Cobwebs were on the doorway because it wasn't used much in the first place, so it's perceived that it was done without moving the door. And this trailer's small. It's small, so it's impossible. It's almost impossible to fit 1, let alone 4. The bulls were agitated when they came out, and it was reported that they came out of a, quote, trance-like state. Is right.
Very strange.
So, they found that the...
Thank you, Train. We appreciate your song.
This is a no honking zone.
Yeah, aren't they not supposed to honk this late at night?
Yeah, there was a sign that says no train horn. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so they found the bars of the trailer were highly magnetized as well. They started doing measurements, and they watched for 48 hours until it just decreased and eventually reached just a reading of 0. And they randomly picked up more high readings throughout the ranch, around the ranch, and just throughout the next few days they looked at these readings. And they also found that the higher the readings in the area, the weirder the animals, like the dogs and the cattle, started acting. They were the ones who were reacting the most, and it seemed as though they were like the dogs were barking at things, and they were focused on something as though they were looking at something we couldn't see, or felt something that we couldn't feel. So the researchers started watching the animals. They started watching them more closely, and they noticed other weird shit like padlocks unlocking and the doors to the pens opening by themselves and animals escaping. So basically, I got my info from this cute little YouTube documentary called Skinwalker Ranch, the most paranormal place on Earth, parts 1 and 2. And it's from like a channel called Strange Yet Two Stories on YouTube, and the narrator says it's read from a woman named Joni Mayhan's original written account. I also looked at Wikipedia, I looked at some articles, but I wanted to read this last quote.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you
by a guy named Junior Hicks, and we talked about him earlier. He's the professor. So, retired school teacher. This is from George Knapp, our journalist, his article that was written in the Las Vegas Mercury, November 21st, 2002. Retired school teacher Junior Hicks is the area's unofficial historian for all things weird. He's cataloged 400 or so incidents, most of them involving UFO sightings, but says there have been thousands of other cases. And Hicks estimates at least half of the 50,000 residents of this basin have seen weird things in the sky. Flying saucers, cigar-shaped craft, zigzagging balls of light, so many different objects that local police and the highway patrol long ago stopped taking reports. Many of the lawmen have been witnesses themselves. Hicks and members of his family have witnessed their own UFO events over the years. Quote, the UFO activity really started getting intense in the early 50s, Hicks says. Quote, there were cases where the whole school and all the teachers saw these things hovering over the town in broad daylight. In the 60s and 70s, we probably had more UFO sightings than any place in the world, end quote.
So if you want to see a real UFO, I guess... Well, not anymore. You said it's like all slowed down by this point, right? But yeah, there have definitely been other mass sightings of UFOs. Like, yeah, we should probably talk about that in a later episode.
That would be cool.
We've been talking about doing, like, a full-on UFO episode. But, like, yeah.
It's a lot.
That would be a lot. That would be, like, a big undertaking.
Maybe we will tackle it some other time.
I think that's going to be later. You know,
so
later.
Are you ready for
weird shit in the news? Weird shit in the news. Weird shit.
Weird shit.
Weird shit.
In the news. Weird shit in the news.
That's in the news. The weird shit.
So I'll just go first.
Okay.
I feel like we have had many stories involving poop.
Yes.
I have
some scatological shit in the news.
I have another one. So here's an article from theantimedia.com. Written by Carrie Wedler. The title is Poop Parasite in McDonald's Salads Sickens 163 People in 10 States.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's a recent outbreak, and it's in the lettuce. It's called where is it?
Hold
on.
That's not a very scientific name. Thanks for listening, by the way, y'all. Just, always gotta give thanks to the listeners. And the people who write these articles that we take shit from. Yes. Thank you so much.
Anyway, I can't find what it's called, but it's a fecal parasite in the salads. It's in the tainted lettuce, and they also talked about in the article how, like, in 2016, it was reported that their kale salad had more calories and sodium than a Big Mac.
Oh my god.
Oh, Cyclospora outbreak. It started in early May. It was under control for a while, but it spread. Those symptoms include diarrhea, loss of appetite, cramping, nausea, and fatigue.
Cool. Thanks for the PSA. Don't eat at McDonald's. Ever. Anything.
I love McDonald's.
Don't do it. Chloe likes McDonald's a lot.
I had McDonald's for breakfast. I only have McDonald's when I'm on the go.
Okay, so my story...
On the go.
Yes,
okay, sorry.
On the go. It's from Yahoo Sports. It's by Ryan Young, and the title is Stray Cat Sprints Onto Field Mid-Inning During Reds Pirates Game in Cincinnati. You crazy cat. So, a cat happened to wend its way into the ballpark, the Great American Ballpark, in fact, in Cincinnati. And during the fourth inning, it decided to, go out onto the field, have a little try at the game. Maybe he'll take over at third base. Who knows? But what it actually did was looked really confused. And while it was trying to find a way to get off the field, it actually ran right behind home plate just as the batter was hitting a ball. So you can see, there's like a little video that goes along with it, which you can see if you look it up. And the cat starts like sprinting, and then it like obviously hears the sound of the bat, and then like goes off a different way. And it eventually jumped up into the stands, and it was totally fine. But I would have loved that. I would have oh, come over here, I'll pet you while I'm watching the game. Right?
Do you have anything else that's happy?
That's happy?
Yeah.
Oh.
I have a sad one, but it's crazy.
Oh, that was the only one I was gonna do.
Well, I just found this one.
Oh, okay, go.
Okay.
Do it.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
So, this actually happened in April, but I'm still gonna read it. It's from Hindustan Times. Monkey attacks woman at railway platform. She flees and is run over by a train.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's fucked. And it says, this is the second time a person has died in the last 5 months while fleeing from simians. So a 43-year-old woman was run over by an oncoming train while she was fleeing from a monkey that had attacked her at Hempur Depot railway station in Uttarakhand's Udham Singh Nagar district. She was sitting on a bench in the shade of a tree at the station when a monkey jumped on her, attacked the woman when she tried to shoo it away. Panicked, the woman frantically ran towards a railroad the railway tracks where she was hit by an oncoming train.
Oh. Yeah, that's pretty fucked up.
The monkeys roam around in packs of 100 to 200. Locals have changed their routes out of fear. It's crazy.
That's pretty crazy.
Pounce upon moving bikes, leading riders to fall off their vehicles. Yeah.
What are these, like, gremlins? Or, like, what's
I know,
going on
right?
here? Like, I don't understand. What? Okay. I guess the city doesn't just, like, clear them out. I don't get it.
It's
okay.
very odd.
That's very kind of strange. But, you know, again, I don't live there, so I probably shouldn't talk. So I don't know. Yeah, good. So we're probably pretty much done, right?
Yeah.
I think that was good. That was a full episode. Again, thank you guys so much for listening. Like, you are the sunshine. You are my sunshine. No, I'm not going to start singing it. But yeah, we really appreciate it. And, yeah, visit our Instagram. All of our, bullshits, as they would say on the last podcast on the left. Patreon page, patreon.com/mysterymurdery thingy. We got our Weird News Volume 4 up there. We're going to be doing another one of those every single fucking week, okay? We are doing it every single week, even if no one ever listens to them. Your loss. And, you know, we got one that we're going to record tomorrow, so more weird shit. If you love the weird shit in the news...
Yay.
Get the Weird News Extra, because it's awesome. It's very loose. We just hang out. You're just hanging out with us. You know, it's even looser than the episode we just did. So, look forward to that.
So, yeah, come hang out with us.
That's a good tagline for it, I think. Come hang out with us and experience the Weird News Extra. What else? Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, good. Oh, that's creepy. Oh, I see. Okay. Thanks, y'all. Bye.
Tell your friends.
Oh, yeah, tell your friends. Tell all your friends. Every single one.
Bye.
All your friends. Bye.